Chelsea crash out of the Champions. I mean, did they even really crash? Did they even really ever get up speed in this leg? It doesn't really feel that way. Although it always feels that way against Real Madrid, one of the premier sides in Europe, for making you feel like you just can't do anything, completely helpless, just sitting there. Even when you do something, they go down the other end and they do something. And that is the frustration of playing a side that is so well oiled and put together at this point as this Real Madrid team, and the frustration of playing a Carlo Ancelotti side with literally some of the best players in the world alongside some of the most experienced players in the world. And in this video, we're going to break down why A, Chelsea went out of the Champions League, B, it was expected, and C, it probably doesn't mean all that many good things for the end of the season, but it may mean good things in the long run at Chelsea. Now, we all know that there are a lot of different situations concurrently cracking off at Chelsea at the moment. We know that there is a difficult situation going on ownership-wise and the takeover of the club from from Roman Abramovich to Todd Bowley, and the amount of different things that are changing all at once. Like, you've got a change here, there's a change in transfers, a change in tactics, a change in employment, there's a change, like that in the first place, and the disruption of that will be incredibly chaotic for any football club, especially with an ownership that's been there for such a long time. It'll be interesting to see in the extreme long run, like when no one can just sort of come out and kind of, just say whatever, what it is that actually went on behind the scenes at Chelsea in this time. Why it was that so many things kind of went even minorly wrong to majorly wrong. But that's not really a great excuse as to what's going on. Do Chelsea even really deserve an excuse? Does Todd Bowley even really deserve an excuse? Well, possibly so. But at the same time, if you are one of these billionaires, if you are one of the people who wants to own a club, you have a huge level of responsibility. And maybe sometimes the anger, sometimes some of the frustration that comes your way is warranted. You aren't necessarily one of the owners who just deserve absolute adulation the whole time, because you aren't running the club to the best of its ability, to the maximum of its potential. And within that, the frustration comes, you are a custodian for us. We are not here to see your product. You are here to shepherd ours. And that is where the frustration will come. They've got long contracts that are now going on at this club. They're trying to sign people up to extremely long contracts. We're talking like the 7-8 year length contracts. We're talking Alan Pardew level of length, rather than the 3 to 4 to 5 year contracts that a lot of the players want. Meaning that, A, they can get out of the club if they don't want to be there in the first place. B, they can renegotiate within a pretty reasonable time. And C, they know that they're guaranteed to keep up at least relatively well with the wages that are around at that time. You wait a decade in football, what's the inflation in that going to be like? And so some players just happy to get the money, right? And this is kind of it. It's like, this is the difference with a lot, like the psychology, the way that you run your club impacts what goes on the field, right? Because if you run your club in a way which players can sync to, and very often players are happy with, and is kind of common knowledge within football, great. You're going to get results out in the field. And, if you can keep players calm, if you can keep them basically relatively happy in almost the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and what people need in their workplace, then sure, that's great. But in football, that's supercharged, all right? You noticed I barely even mentioned what went on the pitch against Real Madrid yet, because the contributing factors seem so much bigger than the minor things that Chelsea have been working towards for weeks. Now, I really enjoyed some of the shapes. I really enjoyed some of the passing. I really enjoyed some of the way the players worked against certain elements of this Real Madrid side. But the way that you get judged against Real Madrid is end product, not the pretty play that you did against them that one time. We know that's how you get judged against Europe's elite, the very top level of Europe's elite. And so whilst it's nice to praise Frank Lampard, it does seem like this is all Chelsea have been working on for a couple of weeks. They've lost, 4 games under Frank Lampard in a row there. It's not exactly barnstorming stuff from Frank Lampard and Chelsea, though we don't necessarily blame Frank. But what we can say is there have been games where Chelsea have faded. There have been games where Chelsea haven't really looked at the races. And then when they do look at the races, it seems as if because the sole focus of the club has been to play against Real Madrid, has been to get through in the Champions League, has been for that big hero moment. And so when you take away from all of that, when you have a good performance from a Kante in midfield, when you don't make the substitutes at the right time, when Real Madrid deflate your entire dream with that one goal, after you missed a numerous amount of chances, like so many, that's a risky game plan at best. Shall I call it that? The other way, risk isn't even really a thing with it, is it? So you're playing Real Madrid and then you're trying to put them on a knife edge. Your tactic was to basically make it a little bit uncomfortable for Real Madrid. One of probably the most comfortable teams in all of Europe. I'm not saying Frank Lampard was necessarily wrong, but Chelsea have been vulnerable in recent weeks. There have been the ways that Real Madrid have been vulnerable in recent weeks. There have been ways that Chelsea probably get at them, right? I didn't really see that in the same way as when I'm watching, other La Liga sides or even Barcelona try to, and I know they're in the La Liga, but you get my point, they're at the very top, they're a little bit different. The way that you unpick them, right? What's the difference between the two? The real difference was Chelsea, again, didn't have a real finisher. But just go with me on this. They had Mudryk, Felix, Sterling, Zinchenko. The attacking names on the bench go on. The control names that they had goes on. That's the frustration here. If you are a Chelsea fan, if you are someone who's watching in either the stadium or at home, you're wondering why the changes didn't happen earlier. You're wondering when you see Kante get into certain positions, when you see even whoever else it is, Conor Gallagher or whoever, get into certain positions within the team, why aren't there people coming off the bench, flying onto the field and, being fresh sets of legs that maybe would put some of those chances away? Now, in retrospect, it's pretty easy to do that, but I even think there are a lot of people, including myself, who were suggesting these things whilst the game was going on. Now, it's easy for anyone to be an armchair manager, but with that, why is it that these players aren't being given opportunity to prove what it is that they can do against Real Madrid? The top class, João Felix, is Mudryk, that just spent 80 million on. Surely if this is PRFC, if this is a side that can do something against Real Madrid, because let's face it, that's what PR is, the public relation of this, is that we're going to beat Real Madrid, we're going to do something special here, we're going to turn this season around and just give us some sort of memories, then surely you have to beat Real Madrid in some sort of heroic fashion. And it can't just be by remaining very tactically simple, though varied from other games, because that's what Frank Lampard is good at. And at the same time, not having enough variation or reaction within the game to someone. Now, you could also say, hey, Chelsea, maybe they are getting someone else in. Maybe it is that they are looking for the perfect manager or someone who's a long-term project manager, because that's apparently what Todd Bowley wants at the club. He doesn't want a short-term hit. He doesn't want someone who's just going to come in, hit and leave, hit and leave, hit and leave. So I kind of understand that. There are a number of managers who are available. There are a number of different people they could probably talk to at this point, right? So credit to him if that's what he is doing. But on top of that, and almost a multiplier of it, is that Chelsea only have so long to get that manager in. Chelsea only have so long and so many different fashions that they can try and bring new players in with. And if players are watching from the outside and saying, I don't like how that club is run, I don't like what I saw on the field against Real Madrid, I would go to X ahead of Chelsea, or I'll go to Y ahead of Chelsea. Then what? Because this logic goes both ways here. I personally feel that Chelsea are building quite a malleable young side. If you look in the midfield, you can see that. If you look in the defence, you can see the kind of targets they're going after. If you're looking up front, you can see the malleability. But the received knowledge in football at the moment is you do also need a couple of these brilliant players in a couple of these positions. And it doesn't seem like they really have, although they've spent the money on Mudryk, they've got João Felix, they've got Sterling up there up front, they've got a midfield with Enzo, Kovacic, Kante today, and a backline which is clearly growing into their positions, though they've spent a huge amount of cash, and they still have globally the most expensive goalkeeper historically ever. They don't quite have the specialisation in each of these positions to go forward. On top of that, you've then got some of the best fullbacks allegedly in the world. Some people saying that Man City count themselves lucky they didn't get Cucurella. Other people saying that there are certain people who are wasted at this club, such as a Reece James, such as, not in this match, but a Ben Chilwell, people like that. So you tell me, how does this one fall? I personally feel that Chelsea are building an adaptable team. I think they are building a squad that when they go forward with the right manager, when they have someone who is not really even about an indictment of Frank Lampard or not, like Frank Lampard's actually doing something that's quite brave here, actually doing something here that's quite admirable from my perspective. He's trying to come in, do something for his club. He deserves the respect for that. He deserves he deserves what it is that he gets from the Chelsea fans, because what he's doing is something that we deserve respect for doing. It's a self-sacrificing element here from Lampard. He didn't necessarily know what he's coming into. He knew that the club was in need, and he knew that there was a job to be done and possibly cracks to be papered over with his great Chelsea name. Now, Chelsea players can walk around the field and sort of be as disappointed as they want to be and tap their heart and off they walk and all these kind of things. But there is frustration, I'd imagine, for Chelsea fans, not only because Lampard is probably showing at the moment that it can't just be any manager who comes in, it has to be someone who comes in with a long-term vision. Secondly, that there are players, I think, at this club that have decided they want to move on. And some of them were sitting on the bench, in Ziyech or Pulisic or possibly some other big names. And the counter of that is they also have some really big names that they're not making the most of, that they're wasting the potential of, and that may be quite frustrated. And that is the frustrating aspect. There is kind of a, we sort of tried and it didn't quite work out kind of thing. So that can't be the approach at a club like Chelsea. A high-end, I want to say like results-driven, but I'm not even sure it's that. Like it's success-driven. It's the glitz, the glamour of the Champions League. They're not in that next season. They're not in it now. Without those things, Chelsea very quickly lose this like core identity that a lot of people seem to rave on about with Chelsea. And what then? What is it that Chelsea represent now? And you can't say there's a big difference between Roman Abramovich and Todd Boehly and all these kind of things. Like, I get there was an old regime and there was a new regime trying to build here, but there's something else off here. What is it? Is it that they miss Roman and Roman was just willing to do anything? Would you sell the soul of your club for a billionaire to just come in and do anything? Or would you not care? Chelsea fans, do you not care who it is that is at the top of the club? Are you going to give Todd Boehly time in the same way that if any other manager comes in, you would love to have given him time? If anyone else comes in, you'd love to give those people time, because clearly there's a squad there. By the way, Real Madrid, what a team. So frustrating. Carlo Ancelotti, fantastic. If ever you wanted a steadying hand, it's Carlo. You want him at the tiller. You want him just, there we go, guys. Straight ahead, play in the right positions, do all these kind of things. All the things that you would have wanted Lampard to do tonight, Carlo kind of does himself. I'll be interested to know what you guys think about this one. It's tricky because a lot of this is narrative right now. Todd Boehly is an exceptionally enthusiastic guy about this Chelsea thing. He's still going to the big games. He's still bringing his guests. He's still bringing kind of big faces to the club. And the money he's put in is insane for any club within Europe. But at the same time, there is financial issues behind the scenes. There is FFP to be keeping up with. There are issues in terms of administration. And that is what he's good at. Maybe let him cook. Maybe he's doing something special. Maybe you'll let Todd just, work a little bit longer. There's some sort of plan coming out here. But at the moment, it's very easy to point a finger and laugh. And I know Chelsea fans do not like that. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. I'll be back again with more videos. It's a shame Napoli didn't go through. I might mention a little bit of that tomorrow. AC Milan, I think they're probably setting up an all-Milan semi-final. Kind of frustrating because you feel that this Chelsea team are lacking some of that doggedness, some of the fight, some of the inspiration that this Milan side currently have. Maybe that in buying players, they're buying a lot of good players, but are they buying the right characters? Maybe that's a good question to get off on. My answer, it's rhetorical, but in my humble opinion, sometimes not. That's why Milan won against Napoli. They got the result with dogged players who got the fight in them, players who are able to see beyond just what is going on in the game and essentially self-sacrifice to get to a position they want to be in. I'm not saying they're going to win it for that reason, but Napoli have been one of the best teams in the Champions League this season. They've beaten Liverpool very convincingly. Liverpool obviously beat them not as convincingly, but they've beaten a lot of sides very convincingly this season. Napoli have looked good. You telling me that Chelsea aren't capable of doing what AC Milan have done in the Champions League this season? Or even Inter Milan? Just see what I'm saying here? There's an element of self-sacrifice elsewhere that isn't within this Chelsea squad right now. I'll be interested to know what you guys think about that. Much love. See you in a little while.